and Beau, and I thought I would finally get around to doing a bit about Beau's backstory. And I hope you'll really like it because I've put a lot of sort of time and thought and heart into it. So far that it is a complete story that would sort of hold its ground through being made into a short story or a sort of comic strip, something like that. So in case I want to do that in the future, I'm not going to sort of ruin her story for you, but I will tell you a bit about her backstory and her personality and that sort of thing without giving away anything that should come as a surprise during the story. So Beau is a 5-year-old girl. She is very intelligent, creative, imaginative, and intense. She has had some difficult things happen to her in the past, and she has a very lackluster relationship with both her mother and her father. They are late in lifers. Her mother was 46 and her father was about the same age, maybe a little bit older, when they had her, and she was a surprise. And they expected a boy very much. And her mother is not at all into sort of girly, frilly stuff, and Beau is all about My Little Ponies and ballet and that sort of thing. So she doesn't really connect with her mother or her father on a personality level, and they're really career-centered people who weren't ever really wanting a little girl. So she's mostly raised by a rotating turntable of nannies, and it's no real surprise that when she's about 4, she develops an imaginary friend. And her imaginary friend is a little boy about 12 or 14 named Vay, and he is her best friend and person who's always there for her, and he is intensely real to her. And he's just this figure that is always around for her, always will listen to her, obviously, because he's from her imagination. And he becomes incredibly real for her. And by the time she's 5, her parents are aware of this imaginary friend, but they're not quite aware how real it is and how important it is to her. So at 5, she's looking at starting school, and she's at that age when most children are outgrowing imaginary friends. And her parents are sort of a little bit worried about it, and she is aware that it's considered abnormal, and that's starting to sort of bother her. But she is so intensely attached to Vay that she has no desire to grow out of him. On top of that, she also has these dreams in which she and Vay are a lot older, somewhere between, say, 16 and 20. And they have what a 5-year-old girl might imagine is a romance. They're both the same age. They're both 16, 17, whatever. I haven't completely chosen what age they will be in her dreams. And it might even vary. But a very naive, innocent 5-year-old girl's idea of a romance. So in these dreams, they might hold hands and like rest their head on each other's shoulders and, you know, maybe even peck. But it's not a sexual fantasy by any means. It's a little 5-year-old's innocent idea of what a romance might be. And that bothers her very much because she sees in her conscious mind, when she's awake and she interacts with Vay, he's a lot older than her, and she sees him in a very platonic way. She doesn't feel like she's in love with him at all. But then there are these dreams, and in the dreams, they are both in love. So that's a real source of guilt for her, and she doesn't really reveal a lot about that, but some of it sort of ends up coming out, I guess, and her parents are sort of dimly aware of sort of what's going on. And as she grows up, she remains attached to this imaginary friend and these dreams of this person who isn't really there. And her parents are pushing her very strongly to grow up and get a life. And as she grows older, even Vay is pushing her away and telling her that she needs to let him go and find something more out of life than an imaginary friend. But she is so attached to him, and he is so attached to her as well, even though he is obviously a creation of her imagination. And as the story goes, she will eventually have to either let him go, grow up and move on, or find a way to make him real. So that's kind of a little clue into the story. So that's it for this video, and thank you to everyone for subscribing. Bye! See you in the next video from Karen and Bo.